Hello everyone, Movie in a Minute here. Today I will be showing you the movie, Hush. Spoilers ahead, and enjoy. This movie is about a girl named Maddie, who is an author. When Maddie was just 13 years old, she got very sick and lost both her hearing and her voice. She now lives alone in the forest with her cat. One day, when Maddie is making dinner, she gets a visit from her friend, Sarah, who lives nearby. They talk to each other with sign language, and Sarah tells her that she loved her new book, that she just read, and is very fascinated with Maddie's writing. While they are talking, Maddie forgets all about her dinner, and the fire alarm goes off. It soon becomes dark, and Sarah is about to leave Maddie's house. She asks Maddie if she wants to come over and watch a movie. Maddie says no, and goes into her house, and begins to write her new book, after Sarah left. Maddie keeps getting called by her old boyfriend Craig, but ignores it every time. Instead of writing, she goes to the kitchen to clean up her burned dinner. Shortly after, her friend Sarah comes screaming and crying for help, and tries to get Maddie's attention by pounding on the kitchen window. But Maddie hears nothing. Sarah gets hit in the back by an arrow, and a scary man in a mask strangles her. The man then stabs her over and over again, until she falls to the ground, dead. The murderer tries to get Maddie's attention, but also knocking and tapping on the kitchen window, but finds out fast that Maddie can't hear anything. Maddie walks back to her computer and starts writing on her book again, but doesn't realize that the murderer let himself into the house, and is standing right behind her with a knife. Maddie gets a call from her sister. She asks Maddie why she lives in the forest all alone, and if Maddie wants to come and live with her in the city. Maddie's sister then notices something moving in the background, but Maddie just says it's the cat, and that she has to go feed it. She hangs up the calls, and goes to find the cat. She goes upstairs, to the attic and all over the house, but no cat. She then opens the front door, and keeps it open so the cat can come in. Shortly after, Maddie gets a message on her laptop. The message contains pictures of her walking around the house, and looking for the cat. Maddie is petrified, and walks over to the open front door where the murderer is standing. She quickly closes the door before he gets to it, but he still tries to find other entrances. Luckily every entrance is locked. Maddie tries to call 911 on her laptop, but as soon as she does, the murderer turns off the power in the house, so she doesn't have any internet connection to call for help. Maddie finds her lipstick in the dark, and proceeds to write with the lipstick on the window in her kitchen. She then uses a flashlight to light the text up. The text says "Won't tell, didn't see face, boyfriend is coming home." Maddie uses that she didn't see the murderer's face to make him go away, and that her boyfriend is coming home soon. The murderer reads the text, and takes off his mask. Now he has to kill Maddie because she saw his face. He also knows that Maddie doesn't have a boyfriend, because he overheard the conversation she had with her sister about living alone. The murderer asks Maddie if she can read his lips through the window, and Maddie nods. He tells Maddie that he can come in at any moment, but he will only enter when Maddie is begging to be killed. Maddie takes 2 knives from her kitchen, and proceeds to walk into her bedroom, where she takes her dresser and puts it in front of the door so nobody can come in. For a while Maddie just sits on the ground, not knowing what to do. But then she sees a shadow outside, of someone knocking on the window. She walks up to the window and removes the curtains, and sees the killer holding her friend Sarah's arm up, and knocking on the window, and waving. Maddie quickly runs away, and begins crying, but she remembers that Sarah put her phone in her back pocket when she came. Therefore Maddie finds her car keys, and walks over to her kitchen window, to try to make her car make a noise, but she has to open the window to do it. The car starts honking and the killer walks over to inspect the car, but sees that there is nothing there, so he breaks in and turns it off. Meanwhile, Maddie is hanging out of the window to try and get Sarah's phone, but the murderer sees her, and she quickly has to go inside again, but crushes the killer's hand while she is closing the window. The killer tries to fight against Maddie to open the window, and he is about to win. Maddie sees a hammer on the floor, and quickly lets go of the window and smashes the killer with the hammer. Maddie quickly locks the window. The killer now walks around the house trying to find Maddie again, who is hiding. As soon as the murderer is on the other side of the house, Maddie goes outside, but has to hide under her porch, because the killer suddenly walks over her. Maddie tries to run away, but the killer hears her, and shoots with his crossbow after her, which makes Maddie run towards the house again, making it inside before she is shot. Maddie now goes onto the roof with the flashlight she used earlier, and turns it on, throwing it into the woods to make another distraction for the killer. He falls for it and walks towards the light. Maddie quickly tries to climb down from the roof to walk away, but halfway down she is hit in the leg by an arrow. She lies on the rooftop, and the killer tries to climb up to here, but she pushes him down, and gets his crossbow, trying to shoot him with it, but she is not able to load it with an arrow, so she runs inside instead. Maddie is in agony, after she got hit by the arrow in her leg by the killer, and sits for a while sobbing. She then takes some alcohol to cleanse her wound, which hurts a lot. She then tries to load the crossbow again, but she is too weak to do it. Meanwhile, Sarah's boyfriend John arrives at Maddie's house to look for Sarah. He keeps on knocking on the door, and the killer hears this. The killer acts like a police officer, and commands John to sit down and give him his phone so he can call for backup. John and the killer talks to each other about what could have happened, and the killer explains that he got knocked out by a big guy, and stabbed in the arm. John asks for his phone back, and when the killer pulls it out of his pocket, he also accidentally pulls one of Sarah's earrings that he took from her earlier. John now knows that he is the intruder, and tells the killer that there should be a spare key in a plant. The killer looks for the key, and John takes a stone to bash him in the head with it and knock him out. A second before he does it, Maddie pounds on the window to alert John, but she distracts him, and the killer now has time to stab him in the neck. John falls on the ground, and the killer thinks he is dead, but he suddenly jumps up and strangles him. Meanwhile, Maddie sits in her living room trying to imagine how to escape the killer. She thinks about running, but she knows that he will outrun her because of her injured leg. She thinks about hiding, but she knows that he can just come inside, and she thinks about waiting, but she knows that she will bleed out from her wound. Therefore, the only thing Maddie can think of to do is to fight and kill the murderer. Meanwhile, the killer is sitting on the hood of Maddie's car, and sees her cat come home. Just as he is about to kill the cat, Maddie shoots the killer with the crossbow, and quickly tries to run inside the house again but drops the arrow. She tries to get it with her hand outside the door, but the killer shuts the door frame on her hand, and crushes it. And he tells her he will be coming inside to kill her. Maddie hides in her bathroom, waiting for the killer to come and get her. She puts a piece of furniture in front of the door, and sits with a knife pointed at it. She doesn't hear the killer coming in from the window behind her. The killer sits right behind her, talking to her. Fortunately, Maddie feels the air from the killer's mouth, and turns around and stabs him with the knife. She then runs away into the kitchen, sitting next to the oven. The killer comes walking in about to stab her, but she pulls out bug spray and sprays the killer in the eyes so he can't see. She then turns on the fire alarm that is so noisy, making the killer essentially deaf. The killer then gets hold of Maddie, trying to strangle her, and Maddie's life flashes before her eyes. Luckily, she gets a hold of the corkscrew that was next to her, and stabs the killer in the neck, killing him. She walks outside, takes the phone and calls 911.